Hello Green Thumbs and welcome back. I'm Ricky and on today's episode we're going to be talking about watering your indoor plants. Alright, so for today I thought I'd bring out a couple of my indoor plants. I got a couple of different varieties. I've got a succulent, Zanzibar, aroid philodendron, dwarf umbrella tree, just a few different options to show how I'd water them. I've seen online a lot of comments about how to water your indoor plants. Everyone does it a bit different, so I thought I'd show you how I do it. Normally I'll do it in my sink in my kitchen, but it's not as pretty in there, so I thought I'd bring it out here just to show you. All right, so one of the main things I see a lot of is people asking, do I plant directly into my decorative pot or do I place it inside a nursery pot inside a decorative pot? So I personally, and a lot of people prefer it in a nursery pot inside a decorative pot. So just as an example, this one here, this is the Pothos Marble Queen inside decorative pot. But inside the decorative pot, we got the nursery pot. Oh, Snow Queen, not Marble Queen. I don't even know. Snow Queen. So we place it in the decorative pot, but it's still inside its nursery pot. So one of the main reasons why I plant it into the nursery pot rather than the decorative pot is whether it's a clear or black pot, you can easily move it around, take it to your sink or outside, water it, feel how heavy it is. Even like in a clear pot, you can check how wet it is. This one's very dry. I don't know whether you can see that. But this one's due for a water. You can also see how the roots are going or where they are. And if you've got it in the decorative pot, let me show you. There's only that tiny little hole at the bottom and your plant's gonna try and drain out of that, where this one has all these holes, which means it's gonna drain out a lot quicker, a lot more sufficiently as well. And you get a better outcome in your plant, I believe. Again, the decorative pot with the nursery pot inside. I'll just quickly show you that. You can just see how dry it is. I was just having a look at this piece of bark in there, but look at all these roots. Look at all that. Coming all the way to there. That's the best part about the clear pots, is you can actually see their roots and see how they're going. You can tell by that whiteness, they're healthy, very healthy roots. And again, this is just, I water all of them probably once every 2 weeks. It really just goes on the clearness of the pot though. If I can tell that it's still damp in there, I won't bother. But I can feel it's light. It's got no fog, so it's definitely dry. With the moss poles as well, I make them, and what I'll do is I'll wet that first because that will just drop water into the pot, and then I'll fill it in. I'll show you a close-up now on actually how I water, because I think there's a bit of confusion as well when they say, you know, don't drench it or don't let it sit in water as opposed to just watering. And then other people will say about bottom watering and top watering. So yeah, a couple of different options, and it gets really confusing. So I'll focus on that now for you. So essentially with bottom watering, it's exactly how it sounds. You're watering your plant from the bottom. Normally you do it in a sink or a bucket, somewhere where you've got enough side wall to put your plant in and fully soak it. I don't have anything out here like that, so I've just got my little tray. Hello. Always comes out to see me. Say hello. Oh, this is Hunter. Hello, Hunter. You gonna water? Are you gonna sit? What are you gonna do? What do you want? You gonna sit here? All right, so firstly, you'd get your bucket or your sink, have some water in there, just enough to get your water up the side of your plant. I'm just gonna use this tray, and I'm gonna just do it in this the Zanzibar, just to show you what it's like. So you just sit it in there, thank you, and let it sit. Eventually you will see your soil, or in a clear pot you'll see it, in a black pot you won't, but you'll see your soil will start to change color as the water goes up. I'll give you a close-up now. You won't see it just yet because it takes a little bit of time, but I'll zoom in on that for you now. Alright, so as you can see, sitting in the water, you can actually see the water starting to move up it. Right here you can see it starting, and look at that big root there. So this is bottom watering. The water will eventually go up. Obviously if you've got it in a sink, it's going to go up a lot quicker. But a lot of people do this when their soil has become hydrophobic, which means it's just not, you're watering it and it's just not getting wet. This way it's forced to get wet, like it's going to have to sit there in the water and soak it all up. I wouldn't do it every single time. Some people probably do it every single time, but once your soil's wet and you're looking after it, you're pretty good. You can do top watering. So mostly I do top watering. All right, so next up I'm doing the 2 totem pole plants. So I've got the Florida and I've got the Marble Snow Queen. I keep saying Marble Queen. These ones I'm just gonna top water. I'm gonna water from the moss pole down. So I'll zoom in on that. Watering the moss pole, you'll see the water go down. It will fill up the pot and it will water that as well. Water obviously inside the pot as well, but I'll show you a close-up of what I mean by draining the pot once you're done. You just tip it in, fill it right up. And I do this with the tropical plants like the aroids. I wouldn't do this with the succulents. Give it a full drench, really get in there and really wet it. See how much water's dripping out of that? So the next thing I do is I put it on its side. Because if you leave it flat down like that and you've got it in your sink or on your wherever you're watering it, it will eventually stop and it will be like, yeah, it's empty. But when you tip it on its side, you'll just see so much more water come out. So I do that until it's completely stopped dripping. So as an example of what I mean, I've got it on its side and it's still dripping. What I'll do is I'll leave this in my sink on its side until that dripping stops. And that's when you know it's not got any water sitting down there, because the bottom of these pots can hold probably a centimeter of water down there. And that's what they mean by sitting in water. So now you're gonna get all of that out and you're just left with wet soil rather than a whole lot of water down there, because that can be a lot of water and that can lead to root rot if they sit in that water too long. Just turn it to the other side. There's still some drips there. That looks all good now. You can just see how wet that is now. The roots are still there. The moss pole. See how that's nice and drenched. Water on the leaves is good too. That just helps with humidity. You can give them a spray every now and then just to keep that up. Again, that's on tropical plants. I wouldn't do it on succulents. So yeah, that's the Florida now watered. I've still got a little bit more. You can see like all that extra water that just sits at the bottom there. You just don't want that. So that's that one. I'll go on to the Marble Queen. All right, so the Marble Queen is the exact same process. I've just thought I'd hold it this time in front so you can really see how it gets wet. You see the moss pole. The water's dripping in it. And then I'll drip some into the actual pot. This is all done in my sink, so it's a lot easier to control. 1 second. So with the moss pole, once it's wet, it's gonna hold a whole lot of water for a while, so you can hear it dripping. Again, I'll leave this in my sink just on its side on an angle so all the drips come out. Because that pole's holding a lot of water as well, that's another thing that can cause root rot. You could have all the water in that pole and you could think this is empty. When it sits flat, it will look empty in a black pot, but you'll see a pool of water at the bottom there. So by putting it sideways, and that could go for like 10 minutes, just dripping just the excess water. And that's a full drench. So I'll just leave that on its side, let it really finish draining, and then I'll put it back in its decorative pot and put it back in my lounge room. So that's the Snow Queen. I got it right that time. All right, so the next one I've got is a succulent. This is a Zanzibar, a black Zanzibar. Again, you can see in the clear pot just how dry it is, which I really like because, you know, I'm a lazy waterer. I either overwater or I underwater. I forget, and clear pots just really help me. This is a decorative pot that it's in. Again, just place it inside and it just lives in its little decorative pot. Now with a succulent, I wouldn't drench this. I pour water into the middle, like just around there, and I'll leave it. I don't over drench it, don't fill it with water. Another good way with Zanzibars, and also snake plant or mother-in-law tongue, another way to tell is when your fingers get pruny after you've been in the shower too long, you will see the pruny, like you will get little lines in the stem. You can see it's kind of a little bit pruny, but you'll really see it in the snake plant. It gets very liney, like it's getting old and wrinkly, and that's a good sign to give it some water. So Zanzibar and snake plant will kind of tell you when they need water by their stems will get liney. All right, so the next plant I've got was a little bit of a surprise to me. I actually bought this one. It was discounted at Bunnings down to like $3 because it was damaged. It had like no leaves left. Again, it's just in a decorative pot with its nursery pot inside. Just like the others, you can tell how wet it is in the clear pots. I can see roots right there. Again, some more there. Yeah, it's really good. You can see the roots, makes it very helpful when knowing when to upsize as well. Now this one was a surprise to me because I bought it because it was damaged and because it was discounted, and I always buy discounted plants. But I've actually begun to love it. Like, this thing just sits in my corner in my lounge room. It gets a little bit of light and it's growing amazingly. I've had ficus, the fiddle-leaf ficuses in the same corner, and they struggle, they lose their leaves. This thing is doing incredible. I think if you're looking for an option other than a ficus, something a bit different, go with one of these. Really simple. If you want something even more different from that one, get a variegated version. Like, I love that so much that I've gone and got this just because I felt like it. But it's so pretty. Like, you got yellow on the leaves, green on the leaves. If you don't want one as simple as a normal umbrella, get the variegated version. It was cheap. This one wasn't on discount, but it was cheap. It was like $13, $15 from Bunnings, just as another option. Again, I give this one a full soaking and I'll leave it. So a full soak, and it's probably in a pot this size, I'd probably say 3 weeks. Now it's getting into the hotter seasons. It probably might be every 2 weeks, but the clear pot just really helps you. You can see how wet it is. It's a lot more foolproof than trying to guess it in a black pot with one of those moisture sensors, because they don't always work. So I'm gonna water that now. So I just thought, why not water them both now? So I've got my variegated dwarf, or yeah, variegated umbrella, my regular, and all I do is in my sink, normally my sink in my kitchen, I just really drench it. You can see it fill up with water. This potting mixture is also my own potting mixture. I have videos on how I make it. It's extremely lightweight, like the water runs straight out of it, which is what you want. See all the water running out. Again, these ones I'll leave on the side in my sink and just let all that water run out of them. Once it's finished dripping, probably 10 minutes or so, I'll put it back in its location and it's fine. All right, so I'm gonna finish watering the rest of them in my sink. I hope this has been informative. If you've got any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help. So today we covered nursery pots, decorative pots, and whether to plant them in them or however. It's completely up to you in the long run. This is just what works for me, what I've found over my years of playing with plants. Yeah, let me know if you've got any questions and I'll be happy to help. And also, it could help me make the next video, because I just never know what I'm going to make. Thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.